Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Now in its 70th year, the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Datejust is not just one of the most important Rolex luxury watches of all time, it is one of the most important models the industry has ever seen. It largely defined the modern sports watch. Everything short of the rotating bezel was present when the Datejust debuted in 1945. The first watch to feature automatic winding, a water-resistant case, and a jump date on its dial. The Datejust was more than a timeless styling effort. It was a technological breakthrough, and adopted by one of its first clients and one of its first owners, a certain Winston Churchill. The Datejust has passed into legend as a two-way player, a sports watch, a dress watch, a watch of average folk with high aspirations, as well as kings, queens, presidents, and world leaders. The Datejust really is the do-it-all timepiece. And I'll be honest, at 36 millimeters, it doesn't need one more millimeter of size to have a huge presence. On the wrist, mine is 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters. The watch has a nice stance with the large flared lugs of a sports watch, thank the Oyster case, and the integrated end links of that 5-link Jubilee bracelet. It reads visually as about 40 millimeters. It also distributes its weight broadly and evenly, so there are no hot spots, and because it sits nice and low on the wrist, this is an easy companion with long sleeves or a dress cuff. Now, some might think 36 millimeters is a little small by modern standards, but consider this. Winston Churchill had a 7.5-inch wrist, according to Rolex themselves, and he wore his with panache. So remember, the man makes the watch, not the other way around. And whatever you've got, the Datejust is up to it. This is a watch that has 100-meter water resistance. That's 330 feet for stateside land lovers like myself. So this thing can have fun in the sun and then jump in the surf. This watch has the same beating heart as a submariner or a sea dweller. Now, this is a Datejust P series, so that's roughly the year 2000. At the time, your submariners and your sea dwellers were getting that same Oyster Perpetual 3135 movement. So this watch, inside and out, is sports watch tough. But because the Datejust really runs the gamut in terms of aesthetics, you have everything from rotating bezel pilot watches to true high society black tie dress reference Datejusts. I would say that this one sits more on the refined, elegant, formal end of the spectrum, and that's due to the presence of this delicate and supple, very comfortable 5-link Jubilee bracelet. The 3-link Oyster was an option, but I find that the 5-link Jubilee is a better match for this watch, with its fluted 18-karat white gold bezel and then that gorgeous lacquered white dial with a circumferential sector or railroad rayhaut or chapter ring, and then of course applied polished white gold Roman numerals matching white gold hands at center. You've got the classic Cyclops eye magnifier and the jump date that gives the watch its name, but it's that combination of lustrous white metal and the white dial with the applied Romans and the matching 5-point white gold Rolex coronet at 12 that really skew this one towards the formal, upscale, refined end of the spectrum. Now, every Datejust may be a Philistine and a bad boy at heart. Remember, Winston Churchill knew how to throw down. After all, he was old school. He liked his bourbon, he liked his whiskey, he smoked his cigars, he went to war. He was a man of his times, so he had that kind of dual mode to him, and so does the Datejust. This Datejust is very much a watch for day and night. The beach and the pool in the day, and then an elegant dinner and the opera in the evening. Again, the highlight of this watch is going to be the dial. Everything from the bezel inward, that white gold, multifaceted, almost like a metallic gemstone. It really plays beautifully in the light, and it's kind of hard to capture this dial because a white dial plays a lot like silver on the iPhone. You don't see the luster and the depth, that sensation of looking at something that almost looks wet on the iPhone, but you do see it in the high-resolution images on our website, Watch You Want. So if you want to get a better sense of this, it's almost like the Stella dials of the 1970s. It has that kind of gleam to it and that seamless sheen of high gloss. It's beautifully paired with these Roman numerals, which I think are the perfect complement to an outstanding reference and an outstanding example of a memorable model. Now, this example is a reference 16234. As I mentioned, it is a P series, so it was built in the year 2000 or thereabouts. We have the original chronometer certificate and provenance with this watch, so we can tell the story to the finest degree possible. And really, the story starts on the outside, but it continues on the inside. The chronometer certificate hints at what lies within, and that is that 3135 Oyster perpetual movement. Bidirectional winding, so there's no unloaded winding where the rotor is wobbling in one direction and then loading up and moving slowly in the other. Some watches that are unidirectional winders have that, and the result is that the watch seems to wobble when you move it. And it happens at awkward times. Some people find it disconcerting. There's none of that. Rolex uses silky smooth Teflon reversing wheels to keep everything upscale. But the watch has a full balance bridge with a Breguet hairspring for optimal shock resistance, resistance to thermal variation, whether it's cold or very hot, whether you put the watch on its side, on its dial, dial up, on your dresser. This watch has that kind of chronometric accuracy engineered in down to the level of the hairspring shape itself. And Rolex goes one step better than most who COSC certify their movements. The COSC chronometer certification is performed on a bare movement. Rolex gets that chronometer certified movement, puts it in the case, and much can happen when you enclose a movement, clamp it to the case via the base plate bolts that actually secure it in, and then stick in the permanent crown. Much can happen, much can change, and that variation is the reason why a lot of movements that are chronometer certified no longer keep COSC when they're delivered to market. Rolex ensures that before the watches leave Geneva, they still keep COSC chronometer standards as fully cased up finished products. That's the Rolex difference, and it goes a long way towards justifying that little script, superlative chronometer, at 6 o'clock on this Oyster Perpetual Datejust. Now, this watch is easy on the wrist, easy on the eyes, the epitome of elegance, and now in its 70th year, a time-tested classic. There are some models that are flights of fancy. They're part of voguish fashions that come and go, oversized, overwrought, overthought. I don't know what the future holds for those watches, but I can tell you that if Winston Churchill were around today, he would know what this watch is at a single glance. As a proud owner, I'm absolutely confident he would recognize the descendant of that 1945 original. And you can too. Check this watch out on our website, Watch You Want, in high-resolution images, and I'm confident that this Rolex Oyster Perpetual Datejust, stainless steel and white gold, reference 16234, just might be the watch you want.